Headphones on, let's do this.
Hey, do you know of a podcast I could listen to that has nerd and comic books and stuff? I really can't find one.
I say, you ever heard of the Nerd Dumb Podcast?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Dome Podcast, episode 275. I'm your podcaster without fear, Luke, and today I am joined with a man broadcasting from the ether.
Classic Chris Hoffman, co-founder of Validity Studios here in Salt Lake City, Utah.
And I'm the alliterative Andrew, also of Validity Studios.
Yeah, we got two of them this time, guys. We caught them all.
It's like Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. There's one on the screen right there.
Yeah, I feel that's far-fetched.
God damn it. Pokemon references, everyone. How you guys been doing?
Great.
I don't want to answer that question.
So good.
Chris, I can feel the joy in your words.
I had an ER visit. I was in the emergency room. Yeah. And so something happened. I have the vascular structure of a very, very old woman. And apparently it causes all sorts of problems just out of nowhere, that when it hurts for a while, and then I go to the emergency room and they're like, well, it's fine now, go home. And then I'll go see a doctor and be like, what's up with this? And they're like, you know. So,
I don't like Louis C.K., but I do remember one of his things where he said, I came in and my arm hurt, and the doctor asked how old I was. He said, yeah, it just does that now.
mm-hmm.
That's just what it does. If you were 27, we could fix that, but for you, it just does that now.
Mm-hmm. Brian Regan has a bit about that too, about his knee going out, and the exact same thing. Yeah. Comics who are looking at like everyday situations and poking fun.
Right.
But I did go to the doctor, and they said they kind of see what's going on, but they're like, we don't want to do surgery right now because you're pretty young. Which I was like, oh, you know how to flatter a guy.
You're like, oh,
and is that, hey, you butter me up into not saying you're not going to do anything? But no, doctor was super nice, and the it's a school, so they had I like having actually like a student doctor there, because they're like looking for stuff, they're like trying to like, oh, this was in my textbook, and so, but they said, just let it settle down and stuff. What happened? I couldn't eat for like 3 days. Like it wouldn't. But I was super full. You know what I mean? I had some sort of thing going on, so that the food wasn't going along. Man, this is great podcasting right here.
Oh yeah.
But it was, and so obviously you sit there thinking, oh, it was something I ate or something like that. But no, it was something in my liver inflated so much that nothing would go anywhere.
Oh, Jesus.
And so, but after 2
did they
days,
put you on a drip of like Vienna sausages or something? How'd they
something like that. Have I ever told you how much I love Vienna sausages?
I had a feeling.
No, I absolutely do love Vienna sausages. Those and mandarin oranges, not together, but those are like two of my favorite foods. So,
next time we all go get dinner, we need to find a place that serves mandarin oranges and Vienna sausages, but not together.
They don't have to be together.
Okay.
No, you can have the oranges for dessert, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, as long as it's not part of the same dish.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like those would go well together.
Not at all. Not at all.
But
when I was out to sea, we would get Vienna sausages, like care packages that, some city in rural Nebraska would send out. Like, here's a pallet of Vienna sausages for the entire ship.
To be fair, they last for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because mostly salt.
Yeah, so you got to think a pallet of Vienna sausages made it from Omaha, Nebraska to the South Pacific. And they were listen, I'm not going to say they were delicious, but when you've only had a certain type of food, you're just like, this is different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it's good, but it's different. So that's my experience with Vienna sausages.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I don't know that I've had one since I was 12, so maybe I don't love them anymore. I'll get a can and I'll report back.
Everyone send care packages of Vienna sausages to Chris.
I wonder if the Gull likes Vienna sausages. Are they hot dog
I'd
enough?
assume.
I bet they do in a pinch.
Yeah, I bet you that would be one of those where you're sitting
That's
there.
what
And
he's got in his pantry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His emergency rations on his belt is
Yeah.
just
Right, he's
Vienna
got like a
sausages because he doesn't have
72-hour kit of it.
Yeah, he doesn't have to think about it. And he's like, oh, they'll be all right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't even have to check the date.
Yeah.
You wouldn't care anyway.
No.
And how you been, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm not answering that.
No, excellent.
We're good.
Excellent.
We're keeping going.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I don't know if this is gonna land as well because Ryan's not here to lead the charge, but I've got some news.
News?
There it is. So we got the Fantastic Four trailer dropped today. And I would like to get your guys' thoughts on it.
Andrew, go ahead. I just talked a lot.
I like the retro look of it. The cute little scene between Ben and Herbie was nice, and I like the design for Herbie, where his eyes are the reel-to-reel magnetic tape. Yeah, like it's. I like what I've seen so far, so I'm cautiously optimistic.
What
Yeah.
about you, Chris?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like it is been hurt before. You know,
By the Fantastic Four.
By the Fantastic
many
Four.
times.
This is a cursed franchise, right? But and Andrew likes to remind me anyone can cut a cool trailer, right? Like the Craven trailer looks awesome, right? The Morbius ones looks really cool. Madam Web one looks great. I love the trailer for the Wonder Woman, the second Wonder Woman movie. I watched it like because the music was so good and stuff.
Yeah, Blue Monday.
Love that trailer. You know what I mean? So I've lived enough life to know you don't watch this and get super excited about it. But it looks like they're hitting the notes. You know, like I was looking at some of the rage bait on the internet today, right, where they were talking about
like you do.
Yes, because that's what they do. Anything like it could be the perfect trailer. It could, star you in it. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, mixed reactions from fans. Is Fantastic Four too woke? And it's like, oh my god, And so the things I've been seeing that where people are like, the thing is on model. There's nothing wrong with him. You know what I mean? It looks like in every other version of him, they tried to put their own spin on it, except for the Roger Corman one. I thought until he would move,
minus the beady little eyes.
Until I mean, they did the best they could.
Until you really looked at it, it was fun.
If he didn't move, just
as a
look at it very much.
Set piece.
Yeah,
they just pan past him. Hey, look at that.
But he had the eyebrows, right? Like he had the rocks and stuff like that, where they had like the Michael Chiklis one, look like they just put like some Bondo on his head. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh, there's just a mouth and eyes. This is terrible. So he's on model.
Yep.
I love Pedro Pascal. You know what I mean? Watch him in anything. So hopefully he has some sort of magical child to escort somewhere, because that's kind of his brand. I have no idea who the Invisible Woman is.
Oh, she was on The Crown. She played,
wonderful.
Oh,
she was also in Napoleon.
Yeah, another one Chris would have.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But hey, her name is Vanessa Kirby, and I think it's neat that there's an actress with the last name Kirby in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, she looks great.
It's a stretch, but I like it.
Yeah, she looks great. Human Torch looks cool. They're doing all sorts of cool things there. Little nervous about Galactus.
It does seem a lot to open with.
Just a little, you know
I
what
was
I
like,
mean?
oh, you guys are swinging for the fences just right out of the gate. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And then what they're going to do at the end to be like, what the hell does this have anything to do with the Marvel universe, right? Because it's obviously an alternate timeline, right?
Yeah, they pop out of the Celestial's hand with an earth-shattering ta-da!
Kaboom.
Yeah.
Where was the earth-shattering kaboom?
Earth-shattering kaboom!
Yeah, see, I thought as I was thinking about that, because like with Captain America, you know, his story, his World War II story is so just, if you weren't involved in those battles in that thing, you heard about him, you know, he was a public figure, but you don't really get the superhero aspect. When a giant space monster shows up over New York City, that is something completely different. So I am interested to see how they're gonna work that in with the rest of the narrative that they already have played out there. But one thing that I had jotted down as something that I liked about it is Galactus is not a cloud. So that's a positive. You were talking about, yes, you were talking about the Thing. I thought that he was great, especially when they put him in the trench coat and the fedora. I was like, yes, he needs the trench coat and fedora scene. But it's, you know, setting it in the 60s, it gave me the vibe of the Marvels comic, the Kurt Busiek, Alex Ross one. Loved that. That's one of my favorite stories. So that's kind of the feeling that I got from watching the trailer, and I was like, this is hitting all the right notes for me. So again, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me, Fantastic Four. But I have always said that Disney needed to do the Fantastic Four because they kind of did with The Incredibles. So I was like, if any studio could do it the right way, correctly, it's probably going to be a Disney oriented studio. So that's what gives me hope on it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll see. The Marvel's first family, it's important to have them in the universe, right? Like, and if they play it in the movie that they're a family and they happen to have superpowers, that is a solid footing or a solid foundation to start with. And yeah, just hope that they're not going to try like the problem with Superman, where they try to do, like, in one movie they try to do like his origin all the way to him fighting Doomsday and dying in one movie in one fell swoop. That's the only worry on this one, is like, are we going to go all the way through their origin? And you know what I mean? If this starts the movie where it's like one of those TV shows where they're like, how we got here, and they're like, the Fantastic Four, rocket scientists who got powers, you know, oh, thank God. Yeah, just move on. We're good with people who have superpowers right away. Just do it.
Right. Just that, yeah, they did with the Hulk, like they did with Spider-Man. Like, listen, he's the Hulk. We know. You did it in the intro credits, the end. Spider-Man, they didn't even do it. They were just like, come on.
Yeah, everybody's watching this knows. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I like I said, swinging for the fences with Galactus. It would have been nice. And again, there's been internet speculation because John Malkovich doesn't have his character name announced yet. They're like, is he gonna be Mole Man? And I was like, I would love John Malkovich's Mole Man.
That's really good casting. If so, that would be fantastic.
And
it'll
like,
be
if
Diablo. Just swinging wide.
Diablo.
You know,
just kidding.
Everybody's favorite immortal Amalcom.
I have his first appearance over here. You helped me get his first appearance.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Sure, it's not Mephisto. John Malkovich is Mephisto, because isn't that the online thing? Anytime they don't know who it is, it's Mephisto.
I have a deal for you, for your soul. What?
For your marriage.
You know what would be great though, is if they did do that, but he was just like in one of those old school Red Devil suits.
Yeah, it's John Lovitz reprising his role.
John Lovitz.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Why did the chicken cross the road? Ha!
With the cape that doesn't come down to the hips. It's just
Yeah.
like that little quarter cape thing. Yeah.
Painted on mustache. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in.
But yeah, no, I think he would be great for Mole Man. Like maybe it's like a recap again, like how they fought, how they became the Fantastic Four, and like, one of their victories was against the Mole Man last week. Or something like that, just to establish something other than, okay, they got superpowers, now Galactus. Something to establish their rep as a superhero team. But yeah, no, it looks great. Again, the feeling of it is what I was hoping it would be. So fingers crossed, cautiously optimistic. Yeah. Have you guys watched any of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
No.
I watched the first episode.
What'd you think?
I didn't care for it. I don't think it's for me, and that's fine.
Okay. Mhm.
Most of the Marvel cartoons, except for X-Men '97, have not been what I'm into, which is fine. It's just it's I don't know. I didn't care for it.
You
The
hear
animation
that?
looked cheap.
You
Like
hear that,
what?
internet? You can not like something and not try and burn everything down because you don't like it. Imagine that. You can just say it's not for me. Who'da thunk it? Um, yeah, no, I watched because they dropped the first 2 episodes. I watched those. It looks like they're trying to do like the original kind of cell shading from the old comics, but mixed with the animation that they did with What If. And it's like I was telling you guys in our chat that it was, they gave us What If and everyone went, we're not really into that animation. So then they gave us X-Men 97 and we said, yes, that is what we want. And they're like, oh, cool. We heard that you like that. We're just not going to do that now. We're going to do this instead. That's more like the original one. And it is so reminiscent of the DC, like the Snyderverse DC movies, where it's like we got Wonder Woman and we're like, good. That first Wonder Woman movie, it's like that was a good movie. That was fun to watch. And like, cool. Here's Black Adam. No. No, that is not what we wanted. Go back and do the thing.
Thanks. I hate this.
Yeah. So that's kind of the way I with the animation style. The story's fine. It's a different story. I think the voice actors do a great job. I'm gonna keep watching it at least until Daredevil shows up because it's me. But yeah, it's just a different take on Spider-Man. And like you said, Andrew, having Spider-Man not be able to have his costume on under his clothes is
It's frustrating to see. It's like
let me
they don't
put
want
these
him to
air
be
tanks
Spider-Man.
on.
Yeah. Where's
So
he
yeah,
hide that anyway?
listen, it's a good entry into the Spider-Verse for the next Spider-Verse movie for a quick cameo, along with Lego Spider-Man. But yeah, no, I have enjoyed it for what it is. Again, it's not X-Men 97. So I guess just leave it at that. Okay, next I found a list online of the 8 underrated Marvel heroes that the world has forgotten about, and I wanted to run through some with you guys and see what you guys think, if they're underrated, if they're overrated, if they're rated exactly where they should be, and just what you guys think. So we're gonna start off with Darkhawk. He debuted in Darkhawk #1 in 1991. Tom DeFalco and Mike Manley.
Yeah, he was a teenage character that found an alien amulet that allowed him to switch places with the Darkhawk, almost like a Shazam Captain Marvel thing. and it's later revealed that he's some sort of Shi'ar soldier, something like that. It was in the War of Kings stories, I think, something like that. That era, they explained that because before that, it wasn't. I don't think it was clear that he was Shi'ar.
And so what do you guys think? You think he's an underrated Marvel hero? Do you think he should just kind of be where he's at on this forgotten list?
In the 90s, he was everything, and I love Darkhawk.
He's got a cool design.
He does have a cool design. He's got the one side Wolverine claw. He's got the cool helmet and the big shoulder pads. Those were all like requisite things in the 90s, right? Like he was a teenage character. If you had aged out of Spider-Man because he was married or whatever things were going on with him, you come back to a teenage character with Darkhawk. Everything about him was like a mystery. So like reading through the comics was really interesting at first because they'd reveal a little bit more every time, right? Where it was like, they didn't know that he was actually switching bodies with this other entity, right? And then it was like the other entity was kind of in a prison, and he fought fun characters like fought Venom once, and he fought like a Magneto type female villain that was a magnetized character and stuff. But the thing about what was going on in the 90s with him is that I was part of the group of people who loved him and the New Warriors, and there were always these flirtations in Marvel at that time with, which team is Darkhawk going to join? Is he going to join the New Warriors? Is he going to find a place for him? Is he going to turn out he's a mutant? He's going to be an X-Man or something like that, And so that was always the huge deal with him. Now looking back on it, I don't know why we were so excited about it.
Oh,
You know what I mean? It was one of those things. It was like, and we've talked about this a million times, the Venn diagram of professional wrestling fans and comic fans is almost a circle. And that was also the exact same thing that was going on at the same time, was like, who's going to join the NWO? Is it Hulk Hogan? Is it going to be which popular wrestler? And then they would sit there with that for forever going, maybe. And it actually like led to a fatigue of that sort of stuff. Where it was like, I don't care who he joins anymore. So I think I like Darkhawk, but I think he sits in a place sort of with Ghost Rider in that mostly he looks cool, but has he done anything super cool in any of the comics? Not really.
Yeah, I think a lot of characters from the 90s can be defined as cool design, no substance. So yeah, no, I agree with you. He does have a really cool look. Like that's what he's got going for you. And speaking of Ghost Rider, I think we talked about this before, where it's like that is the most dude character ever created.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, he's got a skeleton, he's on fire, let's put him on a motorcycle
with a leather jacket.
A leather jacket.
Probably one of the most tattooable comic book characters in the world, right? Because you would have got a flaming skull anyway. People who would have got one. And so it was like, oh, cool, he's got a leather jacket. Fuck yeah!
Listen, how many comic book, tattoo shops had 2 comic book tattoos that they did? Okay, we got the Punisher skull. Do you want it on fire?
Yeah,
or just the skull? So it's on fire. It's a Ghost Rider.
Yeah, he's got a leather jacket and he carries a chain and he looks and he's spiky. He rides a motorcycle. Oh, I can only get so hard. Stop with all the things you're doing to this tattoo. And then does he ever do anything remotely kind of cool? Once or twice.
Yep.
But I still love him.
Yeah. He got rescued by Jesus in like Ghost Rider number 12.
Yeah. Like I said, every character has at least one cool story and it wouldn't be around. You know what I mean?
Did he give him one like flaming thumbs up and then just right away, thanks, Jesus?
No, the devil was trying to claim him, and then this hippie looking dude from the crowd steps in and he's like, "This man's my brother," and rescues him.
I would have read that as Hulk Hogan. This man's my brother.
Yeah.
Okay. Next on the list, we have Stingray. He debuted in Submariner number 19 in 1969. created by Roy Thomas and Marie Severin.
Yeah, he was like a marine biologist or some sort of marine scientist that invented an Iron Man-like suit of armor that allowed him to move through the water with the greatest of ease, almost like a stingray.
Ooh.
And
His armor was like directly stolen from like Iron Man stuff, right? Wasn't he
it
part of the
had
Armor Wars?
it had integrated Stark tech, which was what that was about.
Yeah.
No, the guy with a really cool look.
Right? White and red, very striking.
Yeah, the cool wings and everything, and
He hasn't changed very much from his initial design from the
Yeah.
60s. You know?
that sort of arrowhead that he has on his mask. I'm always a huge fan of that, like Optimus Prime evocative, you know.
Mhm.
Boba Fett type, you know, you don't see his face underneath, but you can still, with the right artist, you can emote with it.
It's almost the reverse color scheme of Falcon.
Yeah,
Just the red and
Yeah.
white, just flip it around, and then they both have capes.
yeah. Something I saw about this, somebody, there was on TikTok, there was it was a Comic-Con in Florida recently where someone bought the original art of his first appearance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's all I know. The guy was like, check it out. It's the first appearance of Stingray. And I was like, holy shit, that's weird. Super
Neat.
random.
Yeah.
This is obscure as hell. I love it.
I'm going to look that up and see if I can't figure out how much he paid for it. Because, I mean, something from...
Marie Severin.
There's a lot of historic, but
Right.
it's Stingray. You know, like, who fucking cares?
I don't
you know,
know.
I mean, it couldn't be
Original
that
art
much.
from the 60s, dude. It's
Oh, I know. Yeah,
yeah.
I get it. That's why I'm saying I'd be interested in knowing how much it is, but I'm also would be. I feel like I'm not going to be like, oh God, that was expensive. I'd be like, oh, that sounds about right. You know what I mean?
Mm.
If that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next on the list, we have Squirrel Girl. Debuted in Marvel Heroes #8, also in 1991, created by Will Murray and Steve Ditko.
Is she an underrated
Yeah.
character? I thought she's kind of having a moment with Marvel Rivals right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what when I pulled this list up, I was like, no.
I think
the
she's
world has
under-
not forgotten about Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, I don't think she's I think she's a little underused in like TV and movie media.
Mhm.
But like, I think she was supposed to be on the New Warriors show, right? That never coalesced.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Because originally it was she was gonna have a solo show, and then it morphed into the New Warriors show, and then it got canceled.
Right.
But I mean, I've loved all the mini series that they do of Squirrel Girl. Like, I'm trying to remember, there's one in 2017, I think it was 2016, 2017, that was delightful. And I'm like, yeah, so she was the one that I was like, I don't think she's underrated. I think they could do more with her, but I don't think she's
I don't think she's
on the
reached
level of Stingray, you know?
Yeah. I think one of the things that you could say about all of the characters on here, they're underrated, but also a bunch of them, like, I think they haven't reached also their potential. They're not a character that you look at and be like, well, there's nothing else you could do with this person. Each one of these characters is like, you know, I'd like to see something else with them in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. Well, almost all of them.
Let me
We'll
look
get
through
to
the
that.
whole thing. Oh yeah, I get you. Yeah. End of the list here. I get what you're saying. But yeah, certainly the Squirrel Girl, like having her, and in Marvel Rivals, and especially the design that they have for her, where they've leaned into everything about that character, because she doesn't look anything like her original design at all.
Well, that's a good thing. I
It's
mean,
a very good thing, because that
every
original design
subsequent
sucks.
appearance she had of her look changed a little bit.
Yeah. In the Marvel one, or in the 2017 Marvel comic, she kind of had more of like an Archie comics look to her.
Yeah.
That's the way they drew her. And I thought that was like, that's perfect for this character. Okay, so next on the list we have Nighthawk, debuted in Avengers #69 in 1969 by Roy Thomas and Sal Buscema.
Yeah,
Love-
so
go ahead.
Nighthawk was Kyle Richmond, who got special training, and I think it was like a magic pill from the Grandmaster so he could become Nighthawk and fight the Avengers. And then later on, they fought the Squadron Supreme, which was a different version of Nighthawk, or vice versa. No, I think it's the first way. Anyways, Kyle Richmond. Anybody get
Kyle?
Kyle.
It is like the worst name for someone to be powerful. You know what I mean? Kyle's a great name.
Watch out for Kyle.
I have a Kyle that is like a family member, right? But also two Kyles actually. But it is not an intimidating name. Listen here,
Yeah.
Kyle.
No, you have to call me Nighthawk.
There's contempt. There's contempt in saying the name right away.
Yeah. Yeah,
There-
I don't have
there
any
is-
strong feelings either way.
I love Nighthawk. I am
He's
true
got a cool
neutral.
costume.
Listen, the cape that just goes up at a 90-degree angle and then back, love it.
He's got
love
machine guns in him in the old
It's
version.
true. It's
And
true.
then the blue costume was cool. When he was
Yeah.
leader of the Redeemers.
I'm seeing one where he got, it is in 2016, where they kind of made him look like the owl from Watchmen.
Oh, that's from the Ultimate Universe
Yeah.
Supreme Power stuff that was
Mhm.
like super dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
he
Nighthawk
looks,
book in particular was super dark. I got you those, Chris. Do you remember reading it? It had a clown soil himself on page 3.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really something.
Chris is like, yes, it's what I see before I go to bed every night.
Yeah, I
now."
think Steve Dillon drew it too, so it had this preacher feel to it that even made put an edge on it.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, gang. Old comics are weird.
That exists. All right. So next on the list,
Nobody-
we have.
Oh man. Yeah. No, you're
keep
fine.
Keep talking about Nighthawk.
Go ahead.
Nothing. I seem to remember. I can never remember. I thought there was a version of Nighthawk who was he was paying his way into being a superhero.
That
Where
was
he was
kind of the Defenders one,
the Defenders
where
one.
he was
Okay.
just rich.
Yeah, he's just rich.
But he first started out as a member of Squadron Sinister in that
Yes.
Avengers comic.
Mhm.
Yeah. The version of him that I like is the one where he is just rich and he wants to be a superhero.
Oh, the Ultimates wasn't that the version?
Something. I can't remember which one it is. I think that's
Yeah,
because
Black
he just
Knight and everybody was on the team. Everybody was just like
Yes.
wannabes. Yeah,
yes, and he was just paying for everything.
yeah.
So he was like, "Look, we're a superhero team." You know, I love that idea. I think that's so funny to me to have someone who's like they don't have a moral compass. They don't have anything. They just have money, because at least Batman has like a moral compass, as demented as it is. He has his own code that he does, where Nighthawk is like, I'm rich, I feel like I should be able to be a superhero, and if I save people in the meantime, fine. If Galactus comes along and I have something to do with defeating him, whatever. But characters like that kill me.
Gold has
Booster
a better
Gold.
sense of
Right.
honor than that. you know?
Yes. Yeah. Booster Gold is a little bit more of he's a little bit he doesn't get what's going on, is more of his deal, where he's like, oh, well, I feel like I saved you from this disaster. I feel like you should pay me $50. Everyone get in a line. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily malicious. It just makes sense to him.
It's not exactly, but it does vaguely remind me of the Marvel Knights, Moon Knight, when he was doing that, when he was making the superhero team, and he was like, I'm in charge. I pay for everything.
Yeah.
And Luke Cage is like, no, you're not. You're just rich. That doesn't mean you lead a superhero team. Yeah, it does.
Yes. I wouldn't find that likable in a person. I think it's really funny in comic books. Just to be clear. There's nothing about that I think is good, where a rich person just comes in and says, I can do this better than anybody. I think it's funny in a comic book because it doesn't work.
Yeah, not in real life.
No.
Not that we would know anything about
No.
that currently happening. Okay, so next we have Deathlock.
Yes,
Debuted in
Locked in
Astonishing
Death.
Tales. Astonishing Tales number 25. I'm gonna murder the Doug Munch. Is that how you pronounce that?
Sure.
Sure. And Rick Buckler in 1974.
Yeah, he was a soldier that got turned into a zombie soldier, half robot, half dead guy, locked in death. That's why he was Deathlock. And he was originally placed. He was in his own alternate universe stories because he was just in Astonishing Tales, and then he started crossing over with the Thing and Captain America and things like that. And so we started having our own main continuity ones, especially in the '90s. It had that really fun one with, what was it, Luther Manning? Was he the
Michael Collins.
Michael Collins was the
Yeah,
90s
yeah.
one. Luther Manning was the old one.
And I don't know. Because I think they, like, as the movies and TV go, they tried to make Deathlock work in Agents of Shield. Didn't really land. But yeah,
There was
I
a
don't-
mid 2000s series called Deathlock the Demolisher, which flipped it, where rather than the robot half of them being the one where it's like, yes, you have to kill, it was like they put a psychopath in there and the robot's like, hey man, don't kill that guy. It was pretty good. That one's worth
Okay.
checking out still.
Okay. Chris, what do you think of Deathlock?
Yeah, he's another one of my 90s all-stars, right? Like the Michael Collins one is the one that really spoke to me in the 90s. Like I like the Luther Manning one. He tried to shoot Jimmy Carter. That's not why I like him, but I thought this is just an interesting tidbit for the character. But the Michael Collins version of him, that comic has a for like the character that he is, it's a better comic than it really deserves to be, for just based on the character, because another big deal about the character is that it's Michael Collins is an African American, and he's put into this death machine, right, that he didn't know he was building. He's like this super genius cyborg guy, and he was told, oh, you're building medical devices, and then they're like, well, we can't get the robot to work, we need a brain to put in it, so they put his brain in it, right? And there was so much stuff in it that was race relations storylines in that comic, where there, and I remember distinctly these things where he was talking about, there's some things that happen to me when I'm in public that even my best friend who's white, we can't connect on it because it's not something that happens to him, and this is something that he needs to understand that's about our relationship. And so it's something I took from it, you know what I mean? I was like in this situation that was one of the things I love about comic books, right, is that you can learn about people who are having like different situations that you are. He happens to be a psycho robot, you know what I mean? But it had a lot of that sort of stuff in it, and is also his like love for his son, because like in the first 4-issue miniseries, there's a part where his son is playing a video game and he wants to put all of his points of his character into his attack, and he's like, you should put some points into your defense, you know, it's much more important to do this and turn the other cheek. He was one of those types of superheroes, and I thought that was really interesting. It's this man with a very high moral compass, but he is piloting a death machine, and how does he deal with that, you know what I mean? And so that's what I loved so much about that character. It's actually a little bit kind of like Spawn was at the very beginning, but they did that in the 90s. This was a blueprint for a lot of these characters. And he looks fucking cool, right? Like the cyber eye and all that stuff. There's nothing not to like about his design. And then Dennis Cowan, African-American comic book creator, was a longtime artist on the ongoing series, and brought a very distinct style and voice to the character that was really cool.
Cool.
So, but as a character, I feel like everybody's rooting for him. Like if he shows up, it's like, yes, make something cool. And so when he showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was like, wonderful. And then it was like, oh, you're not doing anything that we love about this guy. And so, yeah, unrealized potential and underrated here for sure.
Yeah. Okay, next on the list, we got another 90s one, Sleepwalker. Debuted in Sleepwalker #1 in 1991 by Bob Bladansky and Brett Blevins.
Yep. And so Sleepwalker, he's another teenage kid that gets possessed by Sleepwalker from the dream dimension. And every time, I think his name is Rick, he falls asleep and Sleepwalker comes out and then can do strike and do his magic stuff. And he ends up fighting weird characters like 8-Ball and the Orb and Cobweb. It's a very strange character. All really great art by Brett Blevins. Yeah, he used to draw New Mutants. It was great.
I love when I pulled up his little bit of his history. It talks about him in the Infinity Gauntlet. It's like half of the people on this list were in this team. That was after Thanos killed half the universe. Sleepwalker, Darkhawk, Deathlock, and Moon Knight created a team to stop Eon's body from invading the universe. So yeah, I guess there's a team of almost all of the people that we have on this list. I mean, his design's pretty cool.
He's got a cool look. Again, 90s, it was way more important that the character looked cool and that Spider-Man made an appearance in his comic for sales. Like that's the other running joke on this is any of these characters, if you go and look in the first 3 issues, there's a Spider-Man appearance. If not in the first issue, he'll be there by the 3rd issue. And I bought every single one of them. I fell for it every single time.
Oh, damn it. They got me again.
Yeah. But Sleepwalker had that really cool, had this built-in story hurdle, right? Where the hero, the being only comes out when Rick is asleep. And so there's these situations, right, where it's like, well, the villain just needs to find Rick's body and murder it, and then Sleepwalker goes away. Or it's like, we need Sleepwalker right now to defuse this bomb. Hurry, Rick, fall asleep.
Yeah. His utility belt is Ambien.
Yeah. And so it's in that rich history of even just Darkhawk, of where the hero and and Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel, where they switch, where the hero is where the kid switches places with the hero, and Marvel does that really well, right? Like, this is a time-honored tradition for ever since comics have been out. And so they just found another way to do it. And purple and green character always looks cool. I like Sleepwalker. Yeah. But all of these characters show up in stuff, you know what I mean? Like they show up, they all showed up in the, what did they call that? The Avengers, when they had Avengers in each of the states. The Avengers Initiative.
Oh, the initiatives, yeah.
Yeah. All of these characters show up in like 2 panels and they're like, hey, look, it's Sleepwalker. What's he been up to? And then they'll be like, oh, isn't it great that you've been here in Wisconsin for years fighting crime? Well, it's wonderful, Then they had a revival for 2 of these characters just recently, because I bought the new Deathlock comic that came out about 6 months ago, and it was the Luther Strode one, and they had a
Luther Manning,
excuse me. Who's Luther Strode?
It's a different comic called Luther Strode.
That's right. Luther Manning. But then they had a Spirits of Vengeance one come out too, where it was Johnny Blaze, Dan Ketch, and Vengeance, the other. Ooh. Yeah, boo. But it was like, this is the 90s again, man. They tried to revive these, and I feel like they went nowhere.
Yeah. Okay, next we have Demolition Man.
Yay, Demolition Man. I like old Thing comics.
Kind of debuted twice. First he debuted in The Thing, number 28 in 1985. But that was his Dennis Dumfie, and then he showed up as Demolition Man in Captain America 328 in 1987, created by Mike Carlin and Ron Wilson.
Oh yeah, Demolition Man was part of the Unlimited Class Wrestling that Thing used to do. He got his powers from the Power Broker, but he had a heart problem, so whenever he exerted himself at great strength, he would threaten to have a heart attack. And then Captain America abandoned him in the Arctic, and then he came back crazy.
Oh, Steve, why would you do such a thing? So I Marley, who was on the last episode, she was flipping on Disney Plus, and she saw the Lego Marvel Avengers Mass Demolition, and she saw Demolition Man in the front in the thumbnail, and she sent me a message saying, "What did they do to Daredevil?" And I said,
Mhm.
They gave him a Wolverine mask.
easy confusion. Let me help you out here. Yes, he looks like Daredevil in the yellow costume, but it only has one D, and he stole Wolverine's mask. Um, that is the character design.
He just dare.
Yeah. D for Dumphy. Yeah, Demolition Man. So he did get a little bit of a, he popped up in a Disney Plus Lego movie. So yeah. Chris, what do you think of Demolition Man?
I
Not
don't
the
care
Wesley
about
Snipes
Demolition
movie.
Man. He's one of those like, and the super Marvel zombie, right? And Demolitions Man is just one person I don't care about. He would show up every once in a while in backgrounds of things, and they'd go into an alternate Earth and he'd be there or something like that, and he just looks like he smells bad, it's just nuts, But that was my thing too when I was a kid, where I was like, what happened to Daredevil?
Right.
But there's so much stuff I can't think of anything that I read where he had anything significant to do with it. He's literal like Marvel self-parodying character.
Mhm.
Underrated? I don't think so. He's rated just fine. He sucks and he doesn't need to be in anything. A bunch of these characters, I'm like, I'd love to see him in something like that. Not this guy.
get the Wolverine Daredevil Demolition Man crossover that we all need.
Confuse the shit out of everybody who's like a casual fan. Like, what the
If you're
fuck are you-
colorblind, you're boned.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, and then we have last on the list, Andrew's absolute favorite, Karnak, debuted in Fantastic Four number 45 in 1965 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Yes, he's an Inhuman who developed his powers without Terrigenesis, and his ability is to detect the weakness in things, which is good because he sucks. He's super weak.
You think he walks up to every superhero and he's like, the crotch, that's the weakness.
Yes.
And then
Every
he
time.
leaves.
Yeah, he's like, the weakness of this egg is its shell. Crack. Yeah, he sucks. I hate
It's almost like Captain Hindsight in South Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he does it beforehand. Hey.
Yeah,
known
that's
as
all
the
I'm
nut-
going to say about him. He sucks.
He's the nutcracker. I don't know if they had to have done this at some point. So, first off, this guy has never had a cool design. There is no version of him that looks cool.
I was like, it looks like they put a helmet on Sinestro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does he
that's
keep
right.
all his hair in there? What's in that?
No,
You
he's
know what I
supposed
mean?
to have an oversized head.
He's got a fucking sandwich in there or something.
Got a noggin on him.
So stupid. But there's no version of him that looks cool. The green is always ugly, green and white. Yeah, he's just, and they keep trying to turn him into this thing where they're like, it's really important that he can do this. It isn't.
He's a grand strategist. All right.
Sure.
That's
That's real exciting for your comic book here. You know what I mean? When they're fighting things. But I always thought if I had a pitch for him, and they must have done this at some point because I'm a super hack. I'm not, I don't come up with any original ideas. But I always wanted it to be because, like, in his Fantastic Four appearances, like when they show him the first time to show what he's doing, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember this from somewhere, but like he's concentrating on a giant rock, piece of granite, something like that. And they're like, he can find the weak spot in anything. And then he all of a sudden jumps and then whack, hits it in one place and the whole thing splits in half, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's how
Okay.
his powers work.
Okay. So, but like, I wonder if he's ever gone to it where he's like, oh, you know what? What this person's weakness is that they're shy about their acne.
right.
I think there was something like that. Warren Ellis did a run of Karnak, had his own series. This is when around the time that the Inhumans TV show was on. So this was some time ago.
Mm.
Yeah, there was a lot more of
There was
that,
an Inhumans TV
thoughtful
show?
use of the. Yeah, we're not going to worry about that. But there's gonna.
Yeah.
but he used his powers more thoughtfully and with a broader interpretation of how they work.
And you know what's funny? Like that power itself isn't terrible, because you look at Demon Slayer. The main character in Demon Slayer has a thing where he can find the thread, the weakness, and what he needs to do to take him out. It's all about execution. And the way they execute it in Demon Slayer, phenomenal. Karnak, not so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was our list of 8. Darkhawk, Stingray, Squirrel Girl, Nighthawk, Deathlock, Sleepwalker, Demolition Man, and Karnak. So if you could take one from this list and raise it up to get more attention, maybe a new series, maybe some TV show or movie cameo, which one would you guys pick?
It's Nighthawk, but he's possessed by Sleepwalker. And so Sleepwalker isn't coming out at night because Nighthawk's always working at night. And so Sleepwalker is like up during the day, and he doesn't know what to do with himself because he's never really been up during the day.
And then they can switch places with Darkhawk as well.
Yeah, it's like Odd Couple, but with Nighthawk and Sleepwalker.
The one keeps go. Did you watch Luke? Did you watch The Substance?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so you've got. I think you were. The way you were describing it is like funny, and I'm like, no, wait a sec.
This could be really
nightmare fuel.
Yeah, where they keep coming back to the apartment, like, who the fuck ruined the apartment? I hate this person. That's pretty great. I love your idea there. Out of these ones, Squirrel Girl at some point is going to get her own show or movie or something like that. So nobody needs to help her out, you know?
Right.
But it would be between Darkhawk and Deathlock. And I feel like Deathlock would have more of a chance on his own as well. And he's already been on S.H.I.E.L.D., so he would get knocked off the list. So we'll say Darkhawk.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Now into to some news that will not be triggering at all. All right. So found this article about how Marvel, DC, and the comics industry will be impacted by the US tariffs that are potentially going into place. So this is from the article. It says publishers such as Marvel and DC Comics and the comics industry at large are going to be seriously impacted by the tariffs enacted by the U.S. Why the idea of tariffs have been banded around for about a year. Now that Trump's in office, it's become a reality, and it's going to have major consequences for publishers. Back on the 2024 campaign trail, Trump repeatedly discussed his plan to enact tariffs on imported goods from other countries in an attempt to stimulate the U.S. economy and boost manufacturing jobs. Now the tariffs are a reality and alarm bells are ringing all over how this plan is going to impact the comic book industry. So on one of the campaign promises, he announced that they would be imposing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. So within hours of him doing that, Mexico and China put their own tariffs on U.S. goods, many fearing that it was just the start of a trade war. But yeah, so the consequences of these tariffs, it's been written about a few articles giving some context to the president's decision to enact the tariffs, what it would more than likely mean for the U.S. and the comic book industry. These articles note that many single issue comic books are printed in Canada, while collected comics such as trade paperbacks and omnibuses are printed in China. One article discussed how Bad Idea Comics' recent Hank Howard Pizza Detective campaign could result in a $200,000 loss for the publisher due to the tariffs making it impossible to fulfill the order in time. Also, Alien Books, the current publisher of Valiant Comics, admitted that the tariffs change everything about its plans to relaunch the Valiant universe. Yeah, so they also fear that it's going to lead to an increase price of single issue comic books by at least $1, and most of them, the Marvel ones, are sitting around $4.99. The DC ones are around $5.99. So adding $1 onto that could not be great for the industry. So what do you guys think about? I mean, that's a lot to digest, but what do you think about all that?
Do you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, and like this is the double whammy. Like I don't know if I'm sorry, didn't look ahead in the show notes here to see Superman. So okay, so the double whammy on this one is that also like the distributor of indie comics, Diamond Comics, who distributes most indie imprints that you would talk about, everything underneath, that has fewer sales than Boom Studios, which makes up still about 30% of like all comic book sales. Filed for bankruptcy. Diamond did, and so they are looking to reemerge from their bankruptcy, probably without their comic book distribution section. They have a toy and board game distribution section that is still doing just fine. So it seems like this bankruptcy is to cut loose the comic book printing part of it, distributing part of it. So yeah, I think this is one of those things where people I think a lot of fans don't understand how interconnected into the world that the comic book industry in particular is. Like you said, if all that printing takes place in Canada, this is one of those industries where back in the day there used to be all sorts of printers you could go to and be like, go ahead and print the comic book. But since those have all concentrated into more and more focused industries, people like being like, well, there's no money in this. It's gone down to just a few places, and it's cheaper to do them in other countries. One of the things about getting comic books is, like you said, that the prices are already quite high for people. And if we're being honest with ourselves, like one floppy of a comic, I know that this isn't like a one-to-one translation, but how many minutes of entertainment is a 22-page comic?
Right.
On a good day.
Is it 22 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're spending a minute on a page.
Right.
I mean, if it's a Kevin Smith comic and he's written, so much in there, you can't see the Joe Quesada art.
Claremont.
Yeah.
Claremont.
Yeah, we got some novelists out there that are doing that, but maybe a comic book is like 10, 15 minutes if you're really like appreciating each panel, and you know what I mean? So compare that to what you spend going to a movie, buying a streaming, subscribing to a streaming service, going to a sports event or something like that. You know what I mean? Like what are you getting out of your money? And especially when a lot of the comic books are, it's hard a lot of times right now to go look at like some of the bigger publishers and be like, hey, what's your favorite, Marvel book that's coming out right now? Mine's Spider-Boy. I actually am enjoying that one, but it's not a ton of them. Right. And so now you're like being asked to pay a premium for a product that is not, stellar. And then you're just from a place that is being squeezed like a distribution model that's being squeezed so much that it's not worth it for anybody along the whole chain to make any money anymore. You know what I mean? And this is it's a recipe for a collapse of the current distribution model, which is comic books going straight to a comic book store and then customers going to that comic book store to go buy them. And, we've seen the possible demise of this coming for a really long time, pretty much ever since the direct market started. It was like, this is not sustainable for forever. There's too many moving parts that move in between these that could throw it apart. We were the little group of like comic creators that get together every once in a while. We talk about that. We were saying another 5 years or something like that. Boy, howdy, did people just decide to come along and knock over that Jenga tower a little bit faster than we were thinking or hoping. So what it does is it creates that question of like, well, what's next? You know what I mean? Like you've seen this in our local stores, right? Like a lot of them, like our good friends over at the Nerd Store, the vast majority of that store is things other than comic books. You know, there's still a ton of comic books and great deals to be had over at the Nerd Store. Come down to West Valley and get yourself some. But the your airlock too awesome. Do they still use that?
Yep. I don't know. I don't know.
So, but but they know, you know what I mean? They've diversified their product into things like Dungeons and Dragons, which is having a moment right now.
Yep.
Pops, plushies, manga. There's no problem selling manga. You know what I mean? Comic books sell to kids and they get in their hands. It's just not the ones we used to read. And so that is, and businesses are going to move to where the market is going, right? And so this might just be another thing. There's no problem with the big two, right? DC and Marvel have their giant conglomerates behind them, and as long as they want those comic books to keep coming out, they will, because there's no stopping the money there. What this means for everybody is that indie comics are going to have to be purchased either directly from the creator or from something else. And what that is, could it be another distributor that could do it? Sure. There's other companies out there that could do this, but would they look at it and be like, well, it's worth doing? You know, like, I would love for some way to figure out. Amazon has like this program. I don't want to, you know, maybe someone other than Amazon could do this, but Amazon has this program where if you're a self-published author of like novels, you can submit your book to there and people can print them on demand, right? That technology seems like it should just be there for comic books as well. You know what I mean? Like maybe it doesn't, maybe someone could figure out a way, it has to be a rich person who loves comic books, who wants to invest this money into it to be like, I love this thing and I don't want it to end. So I'm going to make something that people could work with here. Right. But that's the big problem, is like, how do you make a distribution model where you have to warehouse all of those comics. You have to have enough money on hand so that when people buy them, you know, you're fronting them the money a little bit for a while. You have to order that stuff 3 months in advance. Indie comics are notorious for not coming out on time, right? And so they're more of a pain in the butt than big comics are. It's hard, even if you're a place like Archie and Antarctic Press, places that have been around for years and years, are some of the people who fall into this category of like, where do they distribute from, and where do they print from after this happens? Where do they go? You know what I mean? Lunar is filled to the gills as far as they're concerned right now. They're like, oh, we didn't know what we wanted to do. We didn't want to do everyone.
Right. We just wanted some
these ones, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you're looking at us to like save the industry, and they have an interest. They have an interest in keeping this distribution model open. They don't want all the comic book stores to close, because what are they going to do with their comic book division? Right. They don't know the IP. They own actually like making money off of the printed copies.
And what is it? Is it Penguin's the other one?
Yeah, Penguin and Lunar. Yeah. So they want the comic book stores to open, to stay open, and I think people will figure out. There's a lot of people that are working on this. But yeah, we'll see. You know what I mean? Like the tariffs didn't help with anything. Also, by the time of this recording, the tariffs are over.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like from what I understand, like the things are coming fast and furious out of the administration right now. They might be on again by the time you actually post this video.
Who knows? Who knows?
Which causes a ton of uncertainty, right? Which is not great for if there's any comic book stores who are sitting on the fence right now, looking at their store and being like, well, this is just another thing. I've been running this store for 20 years. Most comic book stores are mom and pop shops, right? Like it's just someone who loves comics and wanted to be around them all day. Most of them. There's going to be some people of them that are going to be like, I'm done.
Right.
their hands of it, and then that city
Mhm.
doesn't have a comic book store anymore.
Yep.
So yeah,
Mhm.
none of this. To say I don't think the tariffs are going to make it so that suddenly, like an American, like, so the argument for tariffs was, okay, we'll stop getting this stuff from other countries, we'll start making it in America again, right? That's fine. Let's see, but
Mhm.
it would take. So if Luke, you and I decide we want to start printing comic books, right,
Mhm.
at this scale.
Yep.
So we've got to secure funding. We have to convince people. Oh no, trust me, this print thing gonna be great. Then we've got to find a place for it, right? Then we got to
Mhm.
buy the machines for it. Who makes that sort of stuff anymore, right?
Yep.
We're gonna have to buy all the parts from China and stuff like that. So we've
Mhm.
got to wait for all the other companies and start making this stuff in the United States, so that we can start making it here, right?
Yep.
So we're looking at
All,
like our
all
5.
that machining from China that is also going to have a tariff on it.
Yes, exactly. And so we're waiting around for the people who can make the machines that can be made in America so that we can make comics in America. Great. Wonderful. So now we're on a 10-year plan, and in
Right.
10 years
Right.
we're going to debut our first comic book off of these new presses that are in the United States. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that is
exactly.
just not reality. That's not
Mhm.
that maybe that will happen. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is not working in any sort of way to I feel like help anything that we love about the comic books right now. It's just a lot
Mhm.
more issues.
Yeah.
Issues.
Yeah,
See what I did there?
yeah, see what you did there. Andrew,
We
you
could
have I think that wrapped up. That was exactly my thoughts
Well,
on
I mean,
on everything too.
I
So.
think I figured out how to save the comic industry.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And I think it's going to involve variant covers
Ooh.
and putting activity pages in the backs of books because kids like to do activities.
Don't forget about the Muscle Man ads to teach you how to gain muscle mass and be a strong man. You got to put that on the back page.
Yes, we need to address all the readers' fragile masculinity.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, really start needling them early.
Yeah.
You know, it's not enough every time I watch Tubi. They want to make all of my organs work better and grow my hair back and all that bullshit. No, get them young. You're right.
Get 'em
Lee.
young.
I can't
Really
take
make
credit.
them self-conscious about it.
Yeah. Can't take credit for it. Who's the guys who used to do the Gutters comics? Andrew, do you remember?
The Gutters guys.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
There, I think it's the same guys. They have an Instagram account that they post stuff on, and they had a great idea. They said that they've got CGCGC, so it's a service for you to get a CGC grade for your CGC graded comics. So
Man, they're leaving money on the table with that.
so you can get it so that has it still been in the plastic? Are there any scratches? You know, are there any
Wow.
fingerprints and stuff like that?
Wow.
So for $75, we'll put it in another sealed case with another grade.
Brilliant.
It-
I'm in.
It's just like slabception.
Yes.
Yeah, and the grades only go from 5 to 10.
5.
We don't want to muddy the waters too much.
Oh,
We don't
man.
take any other grades below this. It's just not worth. It's not worth doing it. It gets to the point where you do that so much where you can't see the comic inside because there's so much plastic.
Right.
You just have to.
It's the size of a bookshelf.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
it looks like
floating in the
Han and
middle.
carbonite on the wall.
Yeah. It's like a Scion. It's like it's in your garage, and you're like, oh no, trust me.
Ugh.
There's a first appearance of Darkhawk in there.
Oh man! And then you have like a reader copy that you just
You have
tape
your
to the back.
yeah.
So it's all out there. It's all spread out.
But you don't want to lose it, so you punch a hole through the corner and just put a loop on it.
Put a chain on it.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So I'm looking at the time here. Let's just talk about some comics that we've been reading this week. Chris, I know you've had a hectic week. Have you had a chance?
You know what? I got I'll plug something here that I got I got a Kickstarter that I got that I backed. It's called Black Falcon, and it is an indie book. There are 4 issues of this book. Let me get the creator's name from. Oh my gosh, you didn't put your credit in the first page, buddy. Come on, I'm sitting here trying to plug your comic, and I don't see where your name is on any of this. Hauser. Last name is Hauser. Hauser, Simeo, West, Higgins, and Bensel worked on this comic. And he bears a striking resemblance to the Gull, which is why I was interested in this. And so,
How
but
striking.
I mean, he's got he's got like feathers on his shoulders and stuff. But I mean, he's got like the beak and the head, but he's like kind of like a negative Gull. And so I was gonna talk to him and be like, "Hey, I'm smelling crossover here, buddy."
Crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's been doing this like mostly by himself. And like when he has 4 issues now, and he's been kicking out 1 issue a year. Pretty good for there's 22 pages of each book, and it's all story. It's none of it's. So I'm looking forward to reading this, and I'll report back to you what I think. I got a page of original art too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome. See, that's why you back some Kickstarters, guys.
yeah.
You get some cool stuff and some good product. And I know, Andrew, you haven't had a chance to read anything this week, but I did. I have been getting caught up on Ryan North's run on Fantastic Four, which it was just great that I happened to be reading that when the trailer came out. It kept me in the mood. But as you guys know, I have been beating the drum on this comic that I love it so much. And I love it so much, especially when it is, I guess you would consider, I don't know if you consider it a filler issue, or it's an issue that doesn't really push the main story along, but it's, it just kind of pops in there in between these big storylines. Those are some of my favorite issues in this run. Like I talked about the one where Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm got jobs at a local grocery store and they were competing for, employee of the month, right? Stuff like that. So issue 27, it focuses on Nikki. She's the adopted daughter of Alicia and Ben, and she's a Skrull. And I knew I was going to like this book right away because the first page is the kids playing in a playground at their school, talking about, oh, I'm a werewolf. I'm going to turn into a wolf and I'm going to attack you. Like, oh, I'm a vampire. I'm going to turn into a bat and attack you. And then it cuts to like the teacher talking about all these myths of evil shapeshifters. And she's like, well, I'm a shapeshifter. I'm not evil. She's like, I'm going to show them that shapeshifters can do good things. So yeah, it's basically her going through and getting Franklin and Valeria out of trouble at school by turning into the Thing, Johnny Storm, Mr. Fantastic, to try and get them out of trouble. And she's genuinely doing it to just to show that shapeshifters can do good things. They're not always bad. There's a part where they say that they send the Nikki to go rent some PG-13 movies because he's obviously not a child and he needs to get those PG-13 movies. The interactions with the principal are funny because he's just like, this doesn't seem right, but they're also kind of weird superheroes. So I'm not sure if this is just how they are or not. She gets found out. And there's a really good part where Ben confronts Nikki about turning into people. And she's like, I don't understand, back where I'm from, imitating someone is like, that's the highest honor you can get. And he said, well, yeah, that's where you're from. Here, people like to know who they're talking to. And so Ben just says, hey, kiddo, can you not turn into to people like that? And she's like, fine. And there's a part where he wraps her up in a hug, and she says this feels like being gently squeezed by warm rocks. And I don't think I've ever thought of what a hug from Ben Grimm would
I never
feel like.
considered him warm to the touch either.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
But then shenanigans happen. Mole Man attacks the school, trying to kidnap Valeria and Franklin because the team, because the FF are not there. So she uses her shape-shifting abilities to pretend to be the Fantastic Four. But she's, it's not going so well. Mole Man starts to kind of fight back to her, and she starts to realize that she doesn't need to shapeshift and pretend to be other people to show that shapeshifters are good. She just needs to be her. Like, he tries to hit her, and he's like, okay, the more you hit me, the harder my skin is. The more you try and throw me, the bigger I'm gonna get. And she basically saves the day. And it's a good story about, again, being yourself, and how that is always going to be better than trying to be someone else. And that's what I love about this series, is because every one of these issues has something like that. There's always they don't beat you over the head with it, but yeah, there's moments in here where I'm catching myself tearing up, just the way that they're interacting with each other. And I cannot say enough good things about this. It's crawling up to be one of my favorite runs of any comic series ever. For me personally. So if you like that stuff, please go read Fantastic Four, Ryan North, because I don't want it to stop. So keep adding it to your hold, keep reading it, do all that good stuff. So, and that's all I got today. So, all right. You guys want to plug your stuff?
Yes. Find Validity Studios online at Instagram, Facebook, and that's about it right now.
Wherever fine internets are sold.
Wherever fine internets are sold.
I went to the AT&T and they didn't know what I was talking about.
They're lying to you.
They're trying to hide the truth.
It's the 5G. Yeah, and the Whatnot streams will starting up again soon, but they are going to be on Thursdays. We're going to try out Thursdays for a while to see how that goes. Thursdays from about 4:30 till 8 something.
Awesome.
Mountain
time. Yeah, and then you can go. I've been writing a few reviews over on podcasterwithoutfear.com. I'm doing a new thing, reading not bad comics so you don't have to. And it's a guilty pleasure of mine, but I know a lot of people, look down on it. I've been reading the Spider-Man clone saga.
Which clone saga?
The one that comes in 5 volumes from Marvel.
The first part of it, the one that started in the 70s and ended in the 80s or whatever with the Gwen Stacy clone, that's not bad. That original saga isn't bad. The nightmare slog that was multi-year long, that's when it got bad.
Yep, and that's what I'm doing. So everyone doesn't have to, so they can get a Cliff Notes version, and they don't have to go through it. But you talk about cool design, no substance. I love Scarlet Spider. So
cool look.
So he's right.
The
right
kids
in
like
there.
hoodies.
Yes, they do. Hell, he's hip.
Exactly. But yeah, look out for that over on podcasterwithoutfear.com. Thanks for listening. You can, find us Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the Nerd Dome Podcast. If you have any comments or questions, you can write in. And Ryan's not here. Who wants to Who wants
Yeah,
to do the
remember
Ryan
to
line?
like and subscribe.
Yeah, all that.
I lack his aplomb.
Fuck responsibility.
Yes, I could see the whole time.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say here.
It never gets old. All right, guys. Catch you next week.
Good night.
Bye.